Confidant tier list. This is was a request by Inheritance. I have recently finished Persona 5 Royal for the first time. The first time ever playing Persona ever of the series.
Yeah. And I
And
exerted my power of nepotism to get what I want.
well, channel points. Anybody can use channel points.
But not everybody can use channel points and do their own tier list. Let's go.
To be fair, I offered Inheritance to join this. This wasn't part.
I wasn't gonna force myself into it.
It wasn't part of the request. But I will say off the bat also, this will, I have it in the title, but this will not be spoiler free. I'm not going to just say spoilers for the sake of spoilers, but I'm not going to avoid saying them if they have anything to do with my thoughts, as well as a lot of this will be stream of thought, kind of talking about things. So I might be talking about a character and be reminded of something in the game and just really quickly tangentially say a thing that I enjoyed or something. So there's spoilers are here. Unfortunately, if you want to avoid spoilers for Persona 5, you might not be able to watch this at this time.
Definitely go to the Discord and look at the tier list when we upload them, because the list in and of themselves won't have spoilers. It's just we'll have our opinions.
Characters being confidants is a spoiler to you. Which, I mean, to some degree, for me, that kind of is still. But
yeah.
That's a matter of opinion. Additionally, at least for my tiering, I want to be clear that all romanceable options are based off of their romance path, because I went harem route. So I dated everybody. So I don't know their platonic paths. I know their romance paths. I imagine there's not heavy differences, but it definitely still would affect my opinion of the character. And I think that's all of the basics to get out of the way.
I think one thing that you mentioned to me that might not be automatically understood is that this is specifically on the confidant routes themselves, not the characters.
Yes and no. Yeah. Anything, it's about the characters and their character, their character arcs, which are concentrated in the confidant routes, but there's plenty that's outside of those. It's the reason I had mentioned that is because we might also do a character tier list, and it was more of that as a confidant, I might feel different. I might put a character on a different tier than is just a character, because it's also all comparatively. And when there's more in the mix, somebody might get bumped up or down.
Yeah.
So it's not solely based on that, but that is a lot of the heavy effect. What it's affected is based on the confidant, the progression there. But it's also there's stuff like abilities you get from them still will be in effect, or other scenes you see them. Anything that affects anything that affects my overall opinion of them as a confidant.
Yeah, well, I think it's important for my personal sake to bring that up as well, because I'm really gonna focus on that insofar as characters like Caroline and Justine, they share a confidant, so I'm gonna tier them together in the confidant one, but I definitely wouldn't tier them together in the character one for context.
That is fair. I'm just getting some music playing. Let me turn the music a little. That's good. You can hear it on your end, right?
Yep.
Okay. Hopefully it's not too loud. I'm trying to fiddle with it a little. So yeah, I figure this is a good way to start it off with Beneath the Mask, one of the most heard tracks in the game. because we will start with one of the first confidants you meet, even though it's not necessarily one of the first confidants you get. And that is Sojiro. Before I actually get into tiering, I do want to mention is if you look at the tier list here, I kind of specified what each rank means because it's not going to be initially obvious because everything is shifted up. I like almost everybody in the game pretty much. And so my S rank is I would die for them. My A rank is I would take a non-lethal bullet for them. B is I would endure a moderate amount of pain for them. C is I would be inconvenienced for them. D is I appreciate them. And F is I don't love them.
My tier list is just standard S through F. I am not committing myself to corporal punishment for any of these characters.
I mean, I think it's very much in the spirit of Persona to endure some corporal punishment.
I definitely do not like all these characters. As somebody who's played every Persona game at this point, including spin-offs, so, you know, I have thoughts.
That's fair. Well, as I said, we're starting with Sojiro. We're not doing it in the ways listed on there. I'm gonna kind of make a decision as we go. Sojiro is he's your dad, kinda. May as well be.
Yeah.
He's the cafe owner who takes Ren. I'm gonna use the main character as Ren because that's kind of his canonical name. We could call him Joker, but I kind of, in my opinion, their like code names refer to them more in the metaverse.
Yeah.
Ren is a character.
Ren Namamiya.
Yeah, he gets after being accused for a crime he doesn't commit and getting kicked out of school and having to go live somewhere else. He has to live with Sojiro, this crotchety cafe owner who comes off very cold at the start.
Yeah, very cold to start. That's a very good way to describe it.
Like, I didn't even realize he was a confidant at the start, and I was just like, well, screw you too, with pretty much every interaction.
Yeah, I know. Dude,
like,
big old jerk, 100%.
Yeah, and I honestly didn't like him. For a long time, I did not like him.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Even starting his, like, when I learned he's a confidant and start raising things, I didn't like him. And I don't think he warmed up to me until during the Futaba route.
Yeah, well, there's like a big plot twist with his confidant route, right? With the whole, he looks like right? The whole thing of like, do anything and you'll immediately, I'm going to send you to jail. And it's like, dude, calm down. I'm a team, you know?
Yeah, and it was all talk.
And then,
like,
yeah. And then the whole thing with him always talking on the phone with all these like girls, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, leaving the bar, right? And you're like, dude,
I was gonna mention that. That's early on. He came off to me as a womanizer because like it always seemed like he was talking to some girl, some woman, and just leaving the bar and being like, you close up. I have something important to do. I'm just like, are you just like going off with a bunch of girls? Like,
yeah, well, then you expect this child to do unpaid labor for the dignity of sleeping in this dingy attic? Okay, dude.
Yeah, and of course, then in the Futaba arc, you learn he's not going out with women. With a girl, he's not going out.
Yeah, he is going out. It's just not.
He's going out to his home.
Yeah.
Or
with his daughter.
Or out to do an errand for her. It's worth saying that Futaba is not his daughter by blood, as far as I understand.
Yeah.
But, and we'll get into Futaba in more detail when we get to Futaba. But the important part here is that when it seems like he's off doing who knows what, this is an unrated game, doing the tango with a bunch of women.
I love that you classify that as an M-rated game to then use a euphemism.
I mean, I don't. Sure. Point is, what he's actually doing is taking care of a young teenage girl who's going through a lot of shit.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely like makes you reconsider the entire Confidant, and on repeated playthroughs, it's a lot easier for you to overlook a lot of his initial like standoff, because
and
you said, right, you have all this context about where he's coming from and what he's doing. Like, oh, I see why he's not letting me stay in the house. It's because Futaba like has such an intense fear of strangers that
we'll
she
get
would be comfortable, you know. Yeah, but I'm saying like that, like it all sense, you know.
Yeah, and like from that point of view, well, from any point of view already, there's no reason for him to be especially warm to Ren. He has no idea Ren was set up. He has no idea anything about Ren. He just agreed to take care of this kid, which honestly is a very kind thing in itself. And the fact that he just assumes Ren is going to get into mischief, I mean, why wouldn't he assume that? Better to assume that and be like, don't you dare get into trouble. So like he's,
especially with all the things that he has writing to making sure that everything works out right.
Yeah, because there's stuff going on with Futaba and some legal stuff that he's having to worry about. And one thing goes wrong, it's not just going to get you kicked out. It could lose him custody of Futaba. Mm-hmm. And so he's going to be strict. And all things considered, he does warm up to Ren, especially during the Futaba arc when Ren learns about Futaba and ends up helping her. And that's really, I think, when he starts to see that Ren isn't just some hoodlum. Ren legitimately wants to help people. And you can really see it in his confidants as he warms up, that a lot of his coldness is a combination of him. He has a lot riding at it, but also he kind of has a front. He's a sensitive person. He had a relationship with Futaba's mom, if you want to call it that. It sounds like he wanted to go romantic, but didn't. He overall, but he, at the same time, after all this time, I learned from like NPCs, like he's not interested in finding another woman. He just wants to focus on Futaba and his chili, his coffee shop, and which he has the same chili he makes every day.
Chili?
The chili. Wow.
Chili. It's curry, but
curry.
Chili.
We're going with the listen, better than donuts for race.
This is the Americanized version of Persona 5. He runs a coffee shop / chili restaurant.
But yeah, no, 'cause he makes the same curry every day, which apparently he made long ago for Futaba's mom, and Futaba's mom liked it, but had her own improvements to it that make it pair perfectly with his coffee, which, by the way, she did not know. Like, according to the conversation about it, she didn't even know that he was into coffee. She just assumed it based on how he is. He was like, you seem like a coffee guy. So here, your curry will pair well with coffee now. And so he makes only that curry every single day, and all sorts of fancy coffee, which he will teach Ren how to make the coffee and how to make the curry, and slowly loosen up on what he lets Ren do. And like, I really quickly grew to love him and see him as like a legit father figure, a good one. He's a little rough, but like he absolutely means well. Mm-hmm. Because once again, he had no reason he had to do this for Ren. He did this out of kindness.
Yeah, he definitely comes across as a person who takes in, quote unquote, delinquents to try to give them an opportunity at a better life, and like make some work at the coffee shop so they have like a skill set, so they can have marketable skills. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it really is one of those things that, like, looking at it from after, everything just clicks. It's one of those things where it's a really good choice that you made to make him the first one, because it sets the precedent for what all the other ones are going to be like.
Yeah, and both the marketable skills thing, but also I remember one of the scenes he implied also, like, oh, this will also like make you more popular with the ladies. Like, yeah. he just kind of wants to make sure they wind up better and on a good path. Yeah. And you also kind of learn he had some like involvement with government stuff that he ends up like is trying to escape from. So he's not. He clearly is an intelligent person who kind of he has reason to be skeptical of anybody, but he also doesn't let that shut him off from the world. And he's clearly not making a lot of money at the coffee shop, but he's doing what he enjoys and giving people food and drink, and trusts you. Like, I loved. We're getting some late spoilers, but like I loved near the end of the game where he gives Ren for maxing out his rank. He gives you his chili recipe and like curry recipe. God, I keep doing that now.
Literally, just my eye twitches every time.
He gives Ren the curry recipe, and then ends up being like, it'd be a waste for you to like make it identical to this. Put your own twist on it. Like,
yeah, I'm gonna start crying about Sojiro.
I mean, he deserves it. He came off as honestly one of my favorite characters in the game, which is impressive 100%. Because, as I said, I didn't like him at first, and he's one of the few characters I started out actively disliking. And like when he finds out that you're a phantom thief, like he has every reason to like turn you in to protect what he has, and even finds out the next day from the news that he could essentially be loaded for life if he turns you in, and he doesn't. And he's straight up says that, don't worry, I will protect you. And like when he did that, I like cried a little inside. I was like, dude, we need more Sojiros in the world. Sojiro's an S tier. Like,
I was gonna say, with that said, C tier.
I mean, I went in thinking I'd probably be around an A tier, but I think he's an S tier after like thinking.
No, Sojiro
how great
definitely is S tier. Sojiro is literally, like I said, it's like the quintessential thing that I look for in a persona, social and confidant, whatever you want to call it, depending on when you started playing the games. Like, the arc of growth that your understanding of the character does is perfection.
Yeah, and like it's worth saying, because even though it has to do with Futaba, it's during his confidant that Futaba was like abused in her previous homes, and he's doing his best to protect her from winding up back in that situation. And he ends up, he does some things that, he says some things that are a little harsh. He ends up being a little harsh to her, and really gets distraught over it, and comes to Ren, like, wanting to fix things and wanting to be a good father to her. He gets, like, he almost cries when he gets called dad by her.
Yeah.
And, like, so it's not just we grow from being with him and learn more about him, but he grows as a character still. So yeah, it's in all ways, it's how I think it's a gold standard for how the Confidant should go. Everyone gets made better by the interaction. So yeah, you said S tier too then?
Yeah, 100% S tier.
Okay, so next, We'll go with one of the other ones that is one of the earliest ones that is met. Let me make sure Oops. Where is it?
And while ShadJV's doing that, remember that we always post the tier list that we do on the Discord. So if you're not part of the Discord, sign up and fill out this tier list yourself and post it on the correct sub channel or whatever Discord uses. I'm not the guy. I'm the PR guy. But I would love to see what your opinions are about these characters, because they mean a lot to ShadJV, they mean a lot to me, and I'm sure they probably mean a lot to you as well, if you're watching this tier list.
Okay, here we go. Oops. No, don't want two things playing at the same time.
Didn't happen.
Okay. So, yeah, it was actually slightly inaccurate to say Sojiro being the first confidant you meet. The first confidant you meet is Sai Nijima. The game opens with media and res. With like, this is hardly even spoiler, because like if you just play the opening of the game, you know this. Yeah. With Ren getting captured. And he ends up, after being very thoroughly physically abused by the police. Like, disgustingly so.
Yeah, I think the subtext is that they pull his fingernails off.
I think they threatened to. They threatened to remove his leg if he doesn't sign a release saying he did it. So, like...
Which is a very fun way to input your character name. I remember that. It's like, whoa! Can I refuse? Like, I'd rather go by no name.
Yeah, so, but after all this, you end up being interrogated by this woman, Sai Nijima, who clearly... What?
No, I just keep going. I have opinions about Sai's confidant versus the character, but it's so funny. Go ahead. Do what you gotta do.
So she ends up being kind of you hear right away in the cutscene that she's not even on this case at this point. And she seems legitimately like she has personal investment in this rather than anything like directly involved. But she ends up interrogating Ren, and over the course of the game, after a lot of the major story arcs and points to them, it'll cut back to this interrogation room, reminding you that this is all in media res for most of the game. And that Sai slowly starts to kind of open up as, well, your story about another reality sounds utterly ridiculous, but also, if you wanted to lie out of this, like, why would you make up something so unbelievable?
Yeah, it's too ridiculous to be a lie, which is my favorite trope.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, it's an excellent point. Yeah. Like, if you legitimately thought this was a good lie, at this point, you need the insanity plea. So, additionally, there's the fun little thing that every time you meet a new confidant, it cuts to Sai Nijima
that's why I was laughing.
Yeah, as she is tries to point out that, for example, somebody must have been providing you with a place to live. There's no way that you would be able to be a phantom thief without a home. And it gets just so ridiculous to being like, somebody must have been...
It's like, slams hands on table. Somebody was providing you nourishment to do all these crimes. Who was he?
And it gets ridiculous to the point where it's like, she slams her hands on the table. She's like, clearly you would only be able to do these massive heists if you had somebody providing you with excellent mental health therapy. And like, it's just comical. It's to the point where at some, like, I'd make jokes about how ridiculous it is, but then the game would go and make one even more ridiculous than any of my jokes. And I'm just like, I can't actually make up
about the one. Good. I was gonna say, are you talking about the one time where you meet the person who sells you weapons, but then you meet a child who teaches you how to play a video game, and that's the one that teaches you how to use weapons?
That teaches you proficiency with guns and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it just
the person who's actively selling you guns is like, Then the kid who like shows you how to play a video game, somebody's teaching you how to use weapons. It's the only way you could have done all these crimes, and it's like,
we'll get into that one, but like, my main point is it just.
Of the Dead.
What?
I'm over here playing Typing of the Dead. I don't know what you're talking about, Si.
Yeah, it's just this thing that every time it just gets so ridiculous that I can't predict how ridiculous it's gonna be, and any jokes I make end up being eclipsed by it. And it's like anytime I see the date start to fast forward backward as I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, oh god, they're confident. Oh god, what ridiculous thing is I gonna say? And I don't think that fully counts as part of her confidant anyways, because that doesn't go up her confidant ranks. That's for other people's, but it's worth mentioning about her.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I was gonna say she's gonna very low on the list because I was gonna count that as part of her confidant. So good thing that she's not.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. That's a case where I almost think it's more of an issue of game design and storytelling, and just trying to fit into storytelling.
That's fair.
So, but either way, most of her character development honestly doesn't come until a pretty late game, despite you being pretty high on her confidant list by then, because she ends up being one of the ones who you go into her palace, which. Don't talk too much about the palace itself, even though it's an excellent palace.
Yeah.
And basically, she becomes a huge plot point that at one of the biggest twists of the game, you need her aid to simply do like a couple not hard things to do, but she has to trust you enough to do it. And the characters didn't even know, like, that was their biggest question mark on whether they'd be able to pull off a plan that if it went wrong, Ren would die. And it's just, well, we have to hope that Ren's raw charisma can convince this interrogator in one conversation.
Rico Suave over here. Like, he could convince anyone.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree, but... but yeah, she ends up saving them in the time of need, and ends up becoming one of the few adult allies directly to the Phantom Thieves that like directly know the team. And overall, like the other notable thing is her character arc kind of wraps up with her becoming a defense attorney, which I immediately made a joke about Sai Najima, Ace Attorney. Especially since it's very much like a character in Ace Attorney, going from a prosecutor to a defense attorney.
Yeah.
But it does round out her character arc well, because she very much wants to save people. And it's worth noting that a lot of what happened with her is in regards to her father passing away and her having to take care of her and her sister. And like, it really sucks. She has like put everything on hold to try to be able to provide for herself and her sister, and it kind of corrupts her a bit, because it's hard enough to be a very young adult and provide for yourself and a teenager, but she also has to, in a male-dominated field that they point out multiple times, where she's already at a huge disadvantage. And so this is a lot of the reason she kind of compromises her ideals for the sake of putting food on the table. And when you end up being able to change her heart, you kind of can free her from this, especially after the events of the rest of the game, so that she can do what she really wants and follow in her father's footsteps to save people, not prosecute people.
Yeah.
So, like, overall, I feel like... What?
Well, I can finish it. I have something to say, but you can finish your thought.
I was going to say that I feel like her character growth, unfortunately, feels, because of how it's handled, it doesn't feel very smooth. It feels like not much happens for most of the game, and then it happens all very suddenly. And that's just the result of having to have it happen all in media res and have this feeling that you've known this character for dozens of hours of gameplay, when in the reality, Ren and her have hardly known each other, because this is all in media res and just him telling her a story. So, like, I think that does some disservice to what could be a really great character arc. And ultimately, I also feel after you finish her character arc, she's kind of shoved to the side a little too much. And none of her abilities really do anything beneficial for you. Like, other than the raise the level of new personas of her type, her things kind of just don't do stuff. And this is kind of unfortunately punctuated with her getting her item at the end for rank 10, which is her business card. And it's the only one in the game that doesn't do anything. I had to look that up online. I was like, what does this thing do, though? And the internet is like, nothing. So, before I give it a tier, though, what were you going to say about her?
I was going to say that it's a small nitpick, but the fantasies actually don't change her heart, so I don't know if that was just a turn of phrase or...
what? I'm pretty sure they said they did.
No, they don't. That's the point. They pretend like they do for the switcheroo, but the plan only worked if they didn't, because otherwise the palace would collapse.
Huh.
And like Sai even herself mentions, it was like, oh, so did you guys change her heart? And they were like, no, like...
Oh, they never answered when...
your own heart.
They never answered her directly when she said that. I remember that scene. She asked if they changed her heart, and they didn't answer.
I think the subtext is that she changed her own heart, because, like, again, if they would have changed it, then the palace would have collapsed, and then they wouldn't have been able to do the whole thing that they did.
Okay, well, I would still argue that while they didn't change her heart in that way, Ren kind of did like anyways in the interrogation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank you for pointing that out, because I guess I misunderstood a bit there, but it doesn't...
It doesn't matter. I just I'm just trying to pull whatever knowledge I have to make content.
That's fair. I mean, overall, mainly because I don't like the pacing of her arc, and I feel she gets too absent near the end, and then just doesn't... her powers just don't do much for you. I don't, like, love her. I want to. I like her design. I like her personality. I like the voice actor did a great job. Especially given the absurdity of lines that she had to say, and they're said completely in seriousness. Like, if I wasn't paying attention to the words coming out of her mouth in some of those scenes, where you unlock other people's confidants, I would absolutely be, like, kind of intimidated by her. Oh, thank you for the raid, Mika and Pachi. Welcome, raiders. We're doing a Persona 5 Royal tier list stream We are currently doing tier list of all the Confidants in Persona 5 Royal. I will, any of you coming in, I will say that this is a heavy spoiler stream. So if you haven't played Persona 5 Royal and want to, please don't let me spoil this excellent game for you. Oh, that's fair, Macon. You have to hop out because you haven't beaten Royal? Yeah, then you definitely should hop out because this is an excellent game and everybody deserves to experience it blind.
Yeah, best experience fresh.
Yeah. That goes for anybody else, but anybody staying, welcome. I hope you enjoy our discussions as we talk about Persona 5. Otherwise, let me do a shout out though for Meekin. Oh, you're playing Pokemon Infinite Fusion. Nice, I've heard some things about that. Apparently it has some really interesting forms. So, otherwise, yeah, if you're catching me for the first time, I'm a variety streamer. I do a lot of Nintendo stuff and then some non-Nintendo stuff, but on like PC. Most of my streaming is on Nintendo platforms, but some of it is on PC. I do a lot of randomizers. I do a lot of Pokemon stuff. I do a lot of every so often I do tier lists like this. Do a lot of visual novels. Sometimes. Yeah, and Heron Zero is like almost half my streams, to be honest. These days, more than half.
Yeah, I don't have my own. I mean, I have my own channel, but I don't create content yet.
Welcome to the last days. You beat Persona 5 and Royal once each. That's great to hear. I hope you enjoyed them. But yeah, I was just wrapping up with Sojiro. So between Nijima. So between the pacing of her character, the kind of absence of her at the late parts of the game, and then the not much that her powers do, I can't place her as high as I would want to.
Yeah. And remember, for those of you who just walked in, this is specifically on primarily the confidant, not the character per se. She's a great character, but we're talking about the character relationship to the confidant and the growth of the character.
Yeah, a lot of it's the growth of the character, the discovery of their backstory, and how they might help the protagonist grow even.
I was gonna say, yeah, we would have gotten a lot of hate otherwise for where we're gonna place Sai.
Oh, is she popular?
I mean, I find her very popular. I don't like her confidant very much.
That being said, I still think that I would put her in like a B.
Yeah. I would do one below, C. I think she's great, but like it's very middle of the road. A lot of the, what I'm gonna call automatic confidants just don't hit the same for me. And I think it's probably just because I don't have to put in a lot of effort to get them. So it I guess I like the chase of it, but everything you said is accurate in how I feel. And I feel like it's Sai's relationship to the plot is very important, and the relationship that she has with the characters is very important. But it just feels like the confidant route is there specifically to move the main plot forward, as opposed to like to explore who Sai is as a person in relationship to A, her arcana, B, the Phantom Thieves, and C, Ren/Akira specifically, depending if you played Royal or the original Vanilla 5.
Yeah. And I was going to say something else real quick, but first, the last Ace, he said Royal was your first platinum on PS4 within a week of release. Must have really loved it then. Also, Sojiro needs his own tier, to be honest. Yeah, probably, but I'm gonna.
Yeah,
That's what the S is for. S tier.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
It's the Sojiro tier.
Yeah, definitely catch the vibe if he didn't hear us just gushing about Sojiro.
I don't think we had a bad thing to say about that man.
Good things to say, yeah. literally, it's like the platonic ideal of a confidant. Like, this is what we aspire all confidants
he is
to
the
be.
golden ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was I gonna say about side? Oh yeah, like I do want to say that when I got her to rank 10, and like it says you got like unlocked a reward that you like unlock like her aid or something like that. I was like, wait, am I getting her as like a persona user? Is she gonna join me?
Oh, that would have been so good.
And so I had a twinge of disappointment when it really didn't mean much. It just meant, oh, the next part of the story plot can happen. And that felt a little underwhelming compared to, like, because that's just, the next part of the story plot in my mind was going to happen no matter what. So the getting to rank 10 didn't really do anything. Which kind of ties into your thing where the fixed personas, they can't necessarily do a lot of that kind of stuff because it's entirely for main story purpose that their ranks are going up. And like I agree, it's a shame because she's a compelling character, but otherwise, where did you say you're putting her?
C tier.
C tier. Okay.
Yep. Middle of the road.
Okay.